But what I want to do is go through and just kind of take you through a project that I have done and has really, I mean, I've always kind of been intrigued by 3D scanning and ReCap, but having done this project myself on my own personal projects, it has really just convinced me this is the future. Okay, we're used to the past, and some of you may even remember, you know, 2D drafting, and even if you have a computer, you might lay down your sheets and you do some measurements off of it. Does anybody remember back when 2D scanners were like a premium? You had to go to the library if you wanted to scan something. Anybody remember that? You thought, I'm never going to have that in my house. There's no way. And does anybody not have a 2D scanner in their house? Right? It's just, you just have it. It's part of your printer. Everybody has it. I completely, honestly believe that's the direction we're heading with 3D scanning. And it's totally exciting with what we can do. So that's the past, but we are heading to the future. So what we're going to cover today is, and you know, we don't have a lot of time, there's a whole lot to cover. I'm just going a little bit into everything, but what my goal here for today is to take you through the process. As an AutoCAD user, I'm not a ReCap expert, I'm just an AutoCAD user that's intrigued by the technology. And I want you to see how easy it is to get through the process from scanning into ReCap, take it into AutoCAD, and do your designs. For those of you that do use AutoCAD, how many of you use AutoCAD in 3D, do 3D modeling? Okay, great. Well, you've got a jump start. That's the only part that even is, you know, takes some skill in mastering those commands. The rest of it's really pretty easy. Okay, so we're going to talk about this project. Then we'll go through the process of capturing and just some tips of what to do if you're actually capturing with the scanner. Mike is actually going to introduce you to one of the scanners here and take you through some of the details of that and really show you why it's so easy, it's within reach to be able to use this technology. And then I'll take you through some of the processing that you can do, just the very minimum that you can do in ReCap. There's a whole lot that you can do, but I want to take you through just the few things I did so that I could take my scan project into AutoCAD and create my designs in there. And then just a little time. I won't spend much time in AutoCAD because there's a whole lot that we can do in there with 3D modeling, but I want to just show you some of the tools that are key to taking that 3D scan and then starting to model. Okay, so let's get started. So the project, this is actually a townhome that I bought about a year ago, and it was vacant, and I was able to borrow a 3D scanner from the Autodesk team. I didn't really know why I was scanning, I just really like scanning. So I took it up there and spent some time while it was completely empty, scanned everything I could think of that I might need for what I didn't know. But it turned out to be invaluable that I had all this 3D data inside and out, and at the time I lived about 2 hours away. So this is in Colorado, and I lived in the Denver area. This is up in the mountains. And I didn't know at the time that having this 3D data on my computer where I lived 2 hours away was just going to save me so much time, so many trips up there, and enable me to share it with other people that I was working with to start some of these projects. So I'm just going to show you a few before and after pictures. This is one of the rooms. This is a guest room, and I turned it into my office as well. So using 3D scanning, this is the image behind it was from the scan that I took, one of the pictures that it took. And using that, I brought it into AutoCAD, designed this whole Murphy bed thing that we built out of lumber. That's on the left side. That's the guest room side. The right side over here by the window is the office side. So all of this completely designed in AutoCAD with minimal effort by taking that 3D scan and designed it completely remote, living 2 hours away, which saves a lot of trips when your hardware store isn't handy and you have to stop on the way up there. So just a lot of value there. This is another project. This is the back of the townhome, and you can see that tree there. That's going to be key. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first thing we want to do is build a deck and fence to keep the dogs in. So again, doing all this remote, designing it all remote, and being able to come up with that design, get it permitted, get it approved by the HOA, and get that design going as quick as possible. All right, so the first step in the process is capturing the 3D data. Again, I didn't know why I was capturing it, I just thought it would be fun to do. So I took a scanner. The one that I used was this Faro scanner that you see here on the left side. And I took that up, I placed it in various locations, and if you look over here, actually I'll get to that in a second. So that's the one I used on the right side. This is another one. There are a lot of different scanners, and Mike may address that more. He'll definitely be talking about this Leica scanner here on the lower right. So what I did is I took that scanner up here to the site, and wherever you see these balls, and there's many more of them, I think I did over 40 scans, that's where the scanner was placed, on a tripod like what you see over here. And I just placed it at various locations inside and out and captured these scans onto a hard drive. In my case, I had it on a little SD card in the scanner, and then plugged it into my computer later and went from there. And I'll show you the process after that. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mike so he can talk just a little bit more about that process, and then I'll take it back over.
So I'll talk about some of the basic concepts behind scanning. It looked like most people here were familiar. Maybe I'll stand over here. We're familiar with scanning technologies, but this is the BLK 360 scanner that you see here right in front of you. And most scanners are very typical in how they're built. There's a spinning mirror inside. That thing's rotating pretty quickly depending on the model, and the whole base is kind of doing a whole 360-degree turn. As that mirror is turning, there's a laser shooting out, sending a signal out and reading that back, and that's giving that distance measurement. And depending on the hardware, it can be anywhere from 5mm accuracy over like maybe 30 meters to like millimeter accuracy in some cases. So depending on your application, how accurate you need to be, there's a whole variety of different systems out there. So next slide. So that's the laser on that one side hitting the mirror that then gets kind of splashed out into the room. The next one there. So the other part of it is when you're just getting a distance measurement, you're really just getting like an XYZ coordinate, really. There's no other information besides that. The visible light cameras are also taking photos. They'll do a single pass for photos and do another pass for the laser measurement. What the photos will do is it'll allow us to colorize the point cloud. So the images that you would take, just like on your phone, we project that back onto the scan data, and that gives the color to the scan. Otherwise, it'd just be black and white data. So that helps with the visualization side of things when you take it into AutoCAD or any other workflows that Autodesk supports. The case with the BLK, there's 3 visible cameras, and there's also an infrared camera. So that's kind of some of the higher end scanners have had infrared. There's 1 or 2 that I can think of. This is the first one kind of in the lower price range that has added the infrared camera. So we're still really exploring like what people want to do with an infrared camera. So we have the RGB data, like I said, to colorize the point cloud, but what type of things can we expect our customers to be doing, or do they want to do if we add another channel of information, in this case infrared? So there's people who are interested in maybe building energy analysis. I've talked to customers who are interested in inside of plant environments, looking at equipment heat, so trying to identify equipment that maybe needs maintenance, those kind of things. So the fact that the sensor's there will give us kind of future workflows and things that we can support in ReCap and into AutoCAD and the other products too. I'll quickly start a scanner. I'm going to plug in ReCap for mobile. So last year at Autodesk University, we announced a new platform for ReCap. So up to now, it's always been on the desktop or on the web. And so last year, we announced a partnership with Leica, and we need to switch the video there to 8. And announced something that would run on an iPad Pro. And some of the kind of motivations behind adding it to the iPad were more around the workflows. So the workflow that Heidi already described, getting an SD card, taking that back to your office, registering it there, and ReCap back on your desktop, that assumed that she got adequate coverage. She had all the scans that she needed. She had all the angles for the point cloud. But what we hear from customers a lot is that either they don't get adequate coverage. This is a line of sight, so if I'm in the way standing here, it's not going to scan through me or past me. And so that will put basically a hole in the data. It's going to hit me and not hit anything behind me. So those types of things, when you get back to the office, those were challenges that our customers were kind of vocalizing, that they wanted to see the quality of the point cloud while they were out in the field, before they left the field, so they didn't get back to the office, then figure out they had a problem and have to go back and rescan. The other part was really just the ease of use. So in the last 20 years, the scanning technology has been around in some form or the other. And the accessibility of it's changed from 20 years ago to today. 20 years ago, you had to be like a PhD student, know how to like handle the data coming in, know how to stitch it all together. to the point today where we wanted to make it as easy as possible for anyone who really doesn't necessarily even need survey type of knowledge to simply go out there, grab some scans, and go into some of the workflows that Heidi will talk about in a second. So I'm going to kick off a new scan here, and with the iPad Pro, the information is going to be streaming in. So if you take a look right now, this is simply doing quick calibrations, figuring out how to level itself. So this tripod is probably not level the way I set it up. It's figuring out if it's level or not, and it's going to automatically compensate for that. And right now it's going to go through and do a bunch of photos. So it's taking some photos in that one single pass. This one's unique in that it has 3 cameras. So most scanners have a single camera, and they have to use the mirror to actually change the direction. This one has 3 cameras built in, so it takes 3 shots pretty quickly. And before he came in, I was doing some scanning. Let me open one of these up. So this is as everyone was walking in. And so this is the data that's really streamed. As the scan's happening, I can take a look at it. I can see the quality of the space. I can see something maybe that I don't want to include in my scan. So if there's I don't know, a post or I don't know, a box sitting in the way that I don't want in my final data, I can move it. I can see it here right away. Also, this one already registered. ReCap has been the registration point for all the data. So when Heidi took that SD card back to her office, she plugged it into ReCap, and that stitched all the individual scans together. So all those mirror balls that she was talking about all have to be relatively positioned to each other, because they don't really know how they relate to each other until ReCap touches them. That's all traditionally been done on the desktop. But with ReCap Pro for mobile, we wanted to start stitching them, or do the stitching and registration right on the iPad device, because that's part of the quality pipeline. You have to see the entire project and how each of the relative scans fit together in order to have an idea of the quality. So if you take a look, this is a top-down view. iPad Pros, definitely powerful hardware, but still not powerful enough to show an entire point cloud in full 3D glory. But what we can do is we can figure out the relative position of these, do all the registration, and then show you a top-down view. So these are the 2 scan positions I did as everyone was coming in. And I can see, this is right behind the projector right over here. I had it over there. That black spot is data that's missing because the projector table was in the way. Now I can make a decision when I'm in the field to say, there's something important there, I need to make sure I capture it. I can take another scan on this side of the projector. Or I can say, that's okay, I don't need that data, I'm ready to go. So the beauty of having that information right away is that you can make those decisions where before you couldn't. So actually, let me show one more thing here, sorry. The other part about it is when you have this data, you can start querying it right away. So the distance measurements, since there's the scan as well as the image data, that's all accessible to me here on the iPad. And right now I set it to metric, but you can, of course, set it to imperial. The other information that you can also do is do markups. So if there's something about this space right here, I can add some details. And you can also even add images on top of it. So if I wanted to do something, let's see here. Take a quick photo of the class. Some nice smiles there. This information is then embedded in that localized note. So I localized that note to the screen here, and the photo is also associated with this. So now when I go back to the office, download this to the desktop, I can also choose to share this information with any other stakeholders on my project. The measurement, the note, the photo all get published to ReCap on the web, and you simply send your stakeholders that link, and they can open this up, and they can see the data, they can do their own measurements, but they can also see the notes that you maybe highlighted as important for them. So that's all available on ReCap for mobile. It's all part of the ReCap subscription. So I think we'll maybe flip it back to the other part, and I'll finish off probably one more slide.
So Mike was talking about things like registration, and he had some kind of terms there where if you're just an AutoCAD user like me, that may not you may not quite know what that means. I know when I started working with point clouds, when we brought up functionality for AutoCAD, started 2 years ago, I did not point clouds from ReCap from somebody, but I didn't really understand how we got to that point. So what I want to show you now is how to get to that point and what some of these terms like registration and what that means. So that you really understand the process from start to finish. Okay? So How's that? Is that coming over? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Whoops. So hopefully it's kind of clear. You know, it's super easy, like what Mike said, taking the scanner, placing it around. There's some tricks, though, to knowing, like he said. I mean, it's much easier now because you can actually see the data in the field. When he was talking about how it could be frustrating previously because you'd be out in the field and then you get back to the office and realize you're missing information. We did a whole bunch of scans up at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado a few years ago, and that's exactly what happened. It was my first time scanning, and we had over 100 scans, maybe 150, and then when I went to try to register them, first time ever trying to register them together, I was missing. I couldn't get the inside linked to the outside. So had I understood the process better, my scanning would have been better out there. I would have got the right scans in the right places. So that's why I want to show you the manual process, even though if you have a device like this, it's maybe less important, but it's still good to know so that you're scanning the right information out there. Okay, so there's a whole lot that ReCap, Autodesk ReCap can do, and most of you probably know that ReCap installs with AutoCAD and most of Autodesk products by default. If you want to do something like registering, which is linking the scans together, you will need the ReCap Pro license. Okay, so there's a lot of other things that you can do. I'm only going to show you just the minimum in here. So let me go ahead and pull up ReCap. All right, so however you got your data, let's say you did it like I did. You had it out in a scanner, you put it on an SD card, you take it back to the office now, and you plug it into your computer, and what you want to do is just start a new scan project. So I'm just going to...
We're not seeing your ReCap screen.
Oh, why would that be? No. Oh, because it's a project. Oh, okay. Thank you. Which one?
This is why I don't teach live.
Yeah? Yes, okay. Thank you. Ooh, that would have been a long presentation. Okay, so I launched ReCap, and if you just have that new data, you just start a scan project, give it a name, you tell it where you want those files to be. This is important to know where those files are going to go because it is linked. A lot of this is linked. We're going to create a project, and it's linked to maybe 10, 20, 100, whatever scans that you did. So it's important to know where those files are. I'm just going to take the defaults here because I'm not actually going to use this project. But it's really as simple as this. You select the files or the folder that you want to import. If you have more than just a couple scans, it's probably best to choose folder. Then you can navigate to wherever your scans are. So here I've got my 3D scans. Actually, that's not my, well, I'm not going to navigate there, but wherever the folder is that you copied from your drive, you're going to navigate to that folder. It'll have lots of folders under it with all of those scans, each individual scan. And as soon as it does that, now I'm going to get out of here because it does take some time to import those files. That's the first part of the process it's going to go through. So what I'm going to do is suspend that project and go back to a project that I had already started where it imported all these, just to save some time. Now where did I put that project? Uh-oh, that's a bummer. Sorry, it was on my recent ones, but I must have put it somewhere else because it's fallen off the recent. Oh, I can't believe this.
So right now, there's no way to pin a project?
Oh, I don't know. Is there a...
In your recent?
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
It's just the last.
Oh, shoot.
Right.
I really have no idea where I put it. It's always been on my recent until I started messing around.
Can you search for RCP?
Would you like me? I can show some stuff on mobile.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? And I'll try to find, because I want to show you guys the whole
Switch the video
process.
to-
Mike, have you mentioned what's the working range on the VLK?
So the range stated in specs is about 60 meters.
Okay.
The typical operating range is around 30 meters. And it's definitely meant for interior spaces. It was built
Oh, it
specifically
is.
for, not that it can't work outside,
Sure.
but the person that
compliment is that, put that under the chair and get underneath the chair. And mesh that in with the large.
The other day. And the approach that Autodesk has taken is that we have actually a very special relationship with Leica in order to kind of bring this to market. But we stay pretty agnostic to the type of hardware. So ReCap brings in the scanning gate for them.
Do you have your mic on?
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry about that. So what I wanted to show is the registration that was happening. So I was just about to do the registration when I switched back. So really quickly, the data is actually streamed back to the iPad device here. So wirelessly, it's streaming back via Wi-Fi connection. And the registration of that third scan that I was taking as I was talking, you can see it right here. And the merging happened automatically. So the ReCap technologies to automatically register stuff together, that's all in the iPad. And so without me having to do any of my own manual registration, it's done here for me, so that when I get back to the office, I simply plug my iPad in to ReCap on the desktop, and my project's ready to go. If for some reason there's a manual registration needed, I looked at the quality of it, and I saw that it was maybe off a little bit, and that could be for many reasons. You can go into a manual mode and do the registration there. But you can, yep. You can, yep. So there's, Heidi was showing in the new project for ReCap on the desktop, there's a new option there in the latest versions of ReCap that is download from mobile device. And that'll download the scans, the photos, and the registration information right from the iPad. So you have a registered point cloud in desktop right away, ready to be exported out to AutoCAD. And so when I hit register and I just say merge scan, I now have these 3 scans together. And I can look at a map view. I can see that I have the coverage, that black hole that I had around right in front of the projector here. You can see that's filled in now. So that's information, again, that's valuable to me as someone out in the field looking for the quality of the scans I'm taking. How are we doing?
Good, yeah.
Good? All right.
So you
All right.
use ReCap Pro to do registration on the desktop, but if you hook it up to BLK, you don't, on that, that's all one.
The BLK actually comes with the ReCap Pro subscription. Yeah, packaged up together. Sure.
1 year
1 year,
subscription?
yeah. It is a subscription, $40 a month for ReCap Pro on the month, or $300 a year for the subscription. Yeah. Wait, maybe we'll hold questions to the end, and then, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. All right, so just taking you through the process then, where we left off is I had started a new project, and then I mentioned how you can either choose add file or add folders. If you have more than a couple files, then I'd suggest add folder, assuming you have them all in one folder and then subfolders under that. So this is basically what you would end up with, and you can continue adding them. So each of these, I just selected my main folder that had all these subfolders for each scan that I did, and it went through this process of importing them in, and you see the icon change and give you this image as it's importing them. So this has already gone through. It took about, I think it was about an hour and a half for me to import all of these, so that's why I didn't want to do it live. But you could continue if you had additional scans. Maybe you did a few more. You can go back out here to adding a file or a folder, and this is the same process. You just navigate out to wherever those original scans are that you copied off your drive. And again, this is a slightly different process than what Mike is showing you with the BLK. Okay. All right, so then it imports those, and once you've got those in, then you can go to registration. And that's what I really want to show you, because to me that was the biggest mystery. Until I had done it myself, I didn't understand what that meant. So there's this auto register, and I was really impressed. I clicked on this a couple weeks ago just to see what it did, and I was amazed how well it auto registers. I mean, it really identifies key points and registers them together really well. But I still want to show you the manual process this time so that you know what we're talking about and what that auto register is really doing. Okay, so once you've got those imported in, then you go to register. Again, I would definitely try auto register, but here I'm going to just go to manual so you can see the process. So what it does is it displays all the scans that you brought in, and you select one of those, and I think I had already selected one. It doesn't matter which one, but one that you think you can then link other scans to. So I just picked one of my scans over here on the left side, and I said, okay, that's going to be my main scan, and from there I'm going to tell it which other scans to link to. Okay, so here you can see, if I kind of scroll around, this is the position that I was in right here on the steps. Okay, and now what I want to do is find a scan near that, the next one over, one direction or another, that I can link that to. So over here, can just see, looks like I might be able to do this one. Okay, it's further down, but as long as you have some points in common, and ideally what you'd like to have are three faces, preferably on different planes. That makes it really easy. And Mike, you jump in and correct me if, and this is just, a lot of this is my experience, so you correct me. We're being recorded, I don't want to be lying. So what you can do is, and you can even see down here, it's searching for a match just from what it's finding here. It's trying to find if some of this data matches. But if you do it manually, then what you can do is just find different targets. So for example, I know looking here that this wall right above the door, so that wall is the same as this wall right here. So notice it puts a green target on each. It's saying, okay, in this image, this scan, and this scan, those are the same. And it will go through this process 3 times. So I might zoom in here and hopefully pick maybe this roof, a slightly different plane, and say those are both matching points. And then, let's see, maybe, I guess I could try this wall over here, maybe under this light somewhere over there, and see if that finds it. Ah, it found it. So you see how it's got the green target in the lower right corner. So this is what you go through manually. Auto-register is doing that for you. It's going through and doing this all very quickly and automatically. But it's really good to know this process because as you're moving that scanner around on site, and you don't want to have to go back again, which is why this Leica and the 360 option is great. But you want to be sure that you've captured enough information close enough together with faces that it can relate to each other. Okay, so that's why I like kind of showing this manual process. But I'll go ahead and close this down now, and really that's all you do. So I have this whole list of scans, and if I was going to do all this manually, I'd go through each one of those and just keep linking them all together. Okay, but let me go ahead and close this one, suspend that work. It's saving it but suspending it. Now I'm going to open up another project. So this one, yeah. All right, so here, after I got all those scanned in, registered together, now I can open it in ReCap and I can see all the detail. I can look around. If you click on any of these mirror balls, just passing the cursor over, you see the image, the photo that it took. Okay, if you click on it, then it places you right there in that location, and that gives you the best, the most accurate display of the points when you're standing in that location. And it also, in ReCap, it will automatically put you in that view where you're seeing what that photo is. You're seeing that photo, that 360-degree photo. So that's what it's showing there, and you can see that's actually a photo. Okay, so just this alone, having the photos is great. I can't tell you how many times I'd go back and, well, what does that look like? What kind of detail that I wouldn't, even if I was trying to remember details, there are little things like, maybe where the light fixture is, or that there's some kind of obstruction there that I wouldn't even think of measuring if I was out there trying to scribble it all down by hand. Okay, so just kind of the minimal tools that I used for this is to kind of know the display. Oops, over here. I didn't want to do that. Okay, you want to switch between views. Here I've got a 3D view. If I click on that, it takes me back to my point cloud view. So one was the photo, one is the point cloud. Okay, and then if you go up here to, actually I just lost my window. Okay, I'm just going to navigate around there. So what I'm most interested in, like for this deck design in the back, is what we need to do is remove this tree initially. So there was some cleanup that I had to do. We were having inspections. There was a lot of people around. There were people and trucks and all kinds of stuff in the way. So what I ended up doing is opening this ReCap project and then cleaning up the drawing. Okay, a lot of that I've already cleaned up, but what we want to do now is get rid of this tree because we actually had to cut it down in order to design our deck in there. Okay, so just some of the minimum tools as you're navigating around there is to crop away information that you don't need. And it's similar to cropping an XREF in AutoCAD. You just select a boundary area and then you crop away so that you don't see. It's not getting rid of the data. It's just showing you what you want based on that crop. So these tools down here are key. You can either do a window or a fence cropping. I'm just going to start with a basic window just somewhere around that tree to get a little focused in. And now it can crop either inside or outside. So I want to clip what's outside, clip it away. Okay, so that cleans it up quite a bit. Another tool that's handy is the mirror balls. So you can see I've got all these mirror balls, which can get a little confusing. But if you go over here to the second icon for display settings, and then that eyeball, you can see a toggle for mirror balls. It's helpful to just turn those off sometimes. Okay, so I'm just navigating around with my orbit and the tools that you're probably used to from AutoCAD, and continuing to use these tools, either fence or window, to just select around that tree area and clip away, just temporarily clip the outside off. Okay, and just changing my view so it's not actually deleting anything. But now I really do want to delete that. Now that I've got a good view of the tree, I can use these same selection tools. So I'm going to use fence instead of window, and just create a quick fence around the tree area, or the tree points. Okay. And instead of clipping the outside, which is just temporarily display, controlling the temporary display, I'm going to choose delete right here. Okay, so if I delete that, then it actually got rid of that tree. All right, and then I can choose unclip all. That brings back all those points that I had temporarily clipped away, but the tree is gone because I deleted it. Okay, so these are just a few of the tools that you can use. It's helpful to know over here in the lower right corner, if you open up this icon over here, it shows you all the scan locations. So these are all, each individual scan that I did. And sometimes, like if I'm doing a lot of work here and I don't want to deal with the interior scans, I might just turn those off. Okay, so you can just individually turn off scans here. But it kind of just depends what it is you're trying to do. But it's good to know that's there. All right, so that is just a really quick, those are just a few tools. There's a lot more you can do with ReCap, but those are the minimum that I needed to know to get it cleaned up enough so I could take it into AutoCAD and do what I really wanted to do, which was model. All right, so at that point, you can then save it, and it will come up with this message. I'm just going to give it an, actually, you know what, I'm not going to save it because that took a little bit of time. But it will prompt you. It will say, do you really want to delete those points? And then what it's going to do, what I did just to make sure I had my data stored, original data and the new data, is I just saved it as a copy. So that's why it took a while. It copied all that over, all those project files over, and made a whole copy of it. I just like having my data backed up like that. Okay. Any questions while I'm in ReCap? Because next actually we're going to go back over to you, are we? Or you're all done? You're done, okay. Good question. So the question was, this is ReCap Pro or the basic desktop, or the basic ReCap. So this is ReCap that's installed with AutoCAD, but for some things like the registration, you need to have the Pro license. It doesn't look much different, but there are, I think there's icons. If you don't have the Pro license, which I do, there'll be, I think, little icons or something up here. Yeah. So it'll have a little indicator that that tool is only available in Pro, but the app itself looks the same. So, yeah, good question. Now,
The registration, some measuring tools.
Can you export with that?
yeah, good. Thanks, David. Another question over there.
How to get ReCap Pro and just ReCap on the same machine so people can switch between whether they have a license or they don't have a license? Well, it's just on.
So,
Switch back and forth between the two flavors?
Yes.
They don't install side by side, so you have to have one version. You can, with credentials like your Autodesk ID, if you're logged out, it will default to the free version. So let's say you have an Autodesk ID that's entitled to it. You log in, you have access to all the Pro things. As soon as you log out, it defaults to the free version.
What if you have a network license?
That's probably a different story. Maybe you and I can talk about that afterwards. Yeah.
good questions. Just about if you wanted some people on the same machine to be able to either some have a Pro license and some don't.
Specifically with the network license.
With a network license, I think, was the
Yeah.
specific question of how that might work.
With a shared license, basically. Yeah.
Another question back there?
Just had a question on, we've had clients want to see the cloud in our answer file. Is there any integration to export this in where it loads into an answer file without, it usually ends up taking a long time to load one way to export this.
So, yeah, well, so Navisworks has support for the RCP format, which is what you would export from ReCap. But are you asking, is there an easier way, or?
Or is there, so maybe it's computer based,
It takes a little while. So I think the tip I would recommend is there's a unification inside of ReCap. So there's a lot of overlap between these individual scan locations, a lot of duplicated data, and there's a unification step. So you can do a save as, and underneath the drop-down in the file dialog, there's a unification setting. And that will reconcile all the scans together and only have one single point for any given location, and that creates a lightweight point cloud that will have better performance inside of Navisworks.
Okay, great. Another question? Oh, a GPS control point,
yeah.
yes. So I didn't go into that, but yeah.
Yeah. So you can have control points around your project. If you have GPS data with those, you can input those points basically into ReCap, and that'll help with the stitching. It'll also change the coordinate system to be exactly what you were surveying. So the short answer is yes, you can add control points.
And I think we'll try to mention it again later, but are you going to show that in your hands-on session tomorrow?
No, I'm not
No,
planning on
okay.
showing that tomorrow.
Okay.
There was a session today where it got shown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on then. So do you all feel pretty good about this process so far? You get the scans, you pull it into ReCap. Even if you just use minimal tools, you can clean it up, and then you're ready to take it into AutoCAD. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to close this out and pull up AutoCAD. Okay, so here's AutoCAD 2018, and we've had the ability to attach point clouds for quite a while in AutoCAD, but it has changed a bit over the years. In the more recent releases, you can either attach a ReCap scan file, RCS file, or a ReCap project file, which is basically a collection of scan files. So what I'm going to do here is attach the ReCap project file. And the process is very familiar if you've attached any other external files in AutoCAD. So for example, you can use the XREF command, or you can come here to the Insert Ribbon tab and choose, you'll see there's a point cloud panel if you choose Attach. And this dialog box is the one that you're probably familiar with from attaching other types of objects, but you just navigate to your point cloud file. I'm going to go ahead and select the one that I created here with the tree gone. And this should look very familiar. Okay, so it's just like attaching any reference file. I'm just going to go ahead and take the defaults, but again, if you knew an exact location, if you had a GPS point in it, then you can coordinate that using Autodesk or AutoCAD's GPS functionality that it has as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just attach this. And now we can see in AutoCAD we've got all that data. So just a few of the tools that I'm going to show you, the key tools that you'll probably want to use in AutoCAD. One of them is everything, first of all, is available on the contextual ribbon tab. So it's really great. You just select the point cloud, and then pretty much anything you might want to do with that point cloud is available right here. It automatically displays the point cloud ribbon tab. So for the first thing I'm going to do is just crop away some of the information. If I want to focus on that back deck, then I don't necessarily need to see everything else that's being displayed there. I think I tried to pan and zoom at the same time. Uh-oh. I'm not sure what's going on there. Ah! I might just kill it. I did, multiple times.
Any recap questions while we're starting?
When you're registering the files, when she picked the different walls to register, does it take the best fit or does it take point to point, the exact point to point?
It's not looking at the point that she clicked on, it's looking at the surface of what she clicked on. So it extracts the surface from both those two scans and aligns those surfaces together.
So you're compounding an error as you go then?
Depending on the quality of the scan. So we'll give you a quality report at the very end, so you'll be able to see kind of the overlap, our calculation of the overlap, our calculation of the accuracy. So you'll get a report at the end, and you can then make a choice to go re-register, pick some other services, or go to the next registration.
Okay, so I've got it back in AutoCAD attached. And so, again, select the point cloud. That gives you all the tools that you might want to use. The first thing I'm going to do is just crop an area away. Similar to how we cropped points, we clipped outside in ReCap, we can do similar in AutoCAD, the same way you might crop an image or an XREF file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll just use the polygonal one. So I'm just selecting an area sort of around that back deck where we want to design this, or the backyard where we want to design the deck. So keep it inside there. I don't know what is going on with my, it's stuck again. I don't know if it's not liking this projecting. Crazy. Come back. Oh my goodness. Really, I don't usually have this problem. Oh, come on. Oh, that's going to be a long...
There was another question in the back. I guess we'll...
Thanks, Mike.
Sure. So the question was, is ReCap for mobile only for the iPad? And the answer is yes right now. So we focused on iOS for a little while, especially since a lot of people using scanning technologies are in North America and Western Europe right now. And construction sites, a lot of people have iOS right now. Not true across the world, but for the group we were focused on in the last year, iOS is definitely one of the most popular things on construction sites. And there's pretty good horsepower on an iPad Pro. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else you can do in ReCap besides just register and kind of unify the files? Is there any other kind of cleanup tools involved with that?
Yeah.
I mean, what else can you do?
All right. The question was, is there anything else you can do inside of ReCap besides the registration? Answer is yes, definitely. A couple of the things are the cleanup that Heidi mentioned. So as everyone was walking into the room, there was a lot of noise introduced into the scan because there's people moving and the laser's picking everyone up that's moving. There's a automatic cleanup system in ReCap that'll look at multiple scans and what's moving. It'll figure out what's moving and it'll automatically delete those points. So like Heidi deleted the tree, it'll go through and delete all the noise out of the point cloud. You can also create a mesh from your point cloud. So mesh in some workflows, like going out to, let's say, like 3ds Max or something like that, you might want a mesh instead of a point cloud. You can create that directly from segments and portions of your point cloud. You can create visualizations, so you can create fly-throughs, you can create movies, you can create like just image exports, so you don't always have to go to a Revit model or an AutoCAD, a DWG file to communicate your project. So you can just export a movie or a screenshot basically of your system. Beyond that, you can share that information is another thing you can do. So as I was showing you the measurement stuff on the mobile, you can also push that up to the web, and then anyone, whether they have ReCap or not, as long as they have internet and a web browser, they can view the data, query the data, derive some value from it. Trying to think of other top line things. There's a lot of if you go to the ReCap product page on Autodesk.com, there's a list of the pro features and the free features, and so yeah, that was a long answer, but definitely yes, there's other stuff. Yeah.
Can you use, I know you just said the iPad Pro is the mobile app.
Yeah.
Within ReCap Pro, can you use a surface connect to the scanner? Can you utilize that on a job site? I mean,
Not directly. So there are definitely things we thought about, and when we kind of made the decision to go with iOS, some of the things that we were thinking about are when you're out in the field, you're not necessarily always close to a power outlet. And when you think of the computation that's happening for the registration and the testing that we did, Microsoft Surface was one of the ones we definitely looked at. The battery runs down in about like 45 minutes when you start doing registration. And the optimization of the hardware and the way we're able to kind of interface with this, you can be there for 3-4 hours on an iPad. So the fact that you're out in the field, we wanted to make the right decision on the hardware side. But it's something that we've thought about, and if for certain cases where you do have access to power, it may be something we want to explore in the future. Yeah.
Okay. It's really having a challenge here, but I have to tell you guys, I know it sounds like I'm just saying that, but I have had no problems with this. I'm not quite sure what is going on here, but I don't want to orbit. I usually just orbit and do it without even thinking, but I'm a little nervous because it keeps locking up for some reason. I don't know if it's with the projection or what. But I want to just show you some of the tools. So cropping, again, that, clipping outside, just select it and then use the polygonal or circular or rectangular cropping just to get to the area you want. The other thing that's really useful is if you open up the cropping panel, to be able to save these as crop states. So if I click on this little tool, I might save this. If you look at the command line there, it's asking what name. I might call this deck area, for example. And I had a guest room area, and I've done so many different projects in here, so I must have had probably 10 different crop states that I could easily just restore. So I might go ahead and uncrop all, work on some other part, create a different crop state, and then each time those crop states are saved here, similar to doing like restoring layer states, for example. But these are crop states, so I can just click on that deck area crop state and it gets it cropped right down to where I want to focus. The last tools that I want to show you, again, just the few minimum that I really just used a handful of tools to get through a lot of this design that I did. So if you select your point cloud, again, you have that contextual ribbon tab. You can, there's different tools here that enable you to easily extract information from the point cloud. So it's not that we want, and I think Mike, while I was messing with this, he had mentioned that there are tools where you can create a mesh or other objects off of it. But I did almost everything without actually, I didn't remodel the whole home from point clouds. I just took the information that I needed and then used the point cloud to have the context for my design. So for example, if I just select this point cloud, I'm going to use the edge option. And what that lets me do is just find some key edges. If I select right over here, you see it's highlighting that plane. And then I'll select back here. It just created an edge right there because I want to create a deck right here at this part of the home. So I'll do that again. And really, I just ended up creating a few key edges. That plane, and then I'll do this plane right here. Okay, and then one more, and I'm a little nervous about getting in there. Rotate very carefully. Okay, because I couldn't tell from its slopes on the backside, so I wasn't sure exactly where the floor is, but we want to put in double doors there, French doors that walk out right out from the inside. So what I'm going to do is extract an edge from the inside there where there's currently a window so that we can find out exactly where that, or create the deck exactly level with the floor on the inside. Okay, so I created those edges. Now I'm just going to hide this point cloud so that we can see what I created. Okay, those are just the few edges that I created, right? These are key because I want to now design a deck at this elevation. This was the edge that I extracted from the living room. And then I want it to be no bigger than where these three lines are. Okay, so then from there you can just use your AutoCAD modeling tools. For example, I might use the box tool and just snap. I'll just go from this corner to that, to that corner. Didn't snap there. Okay, this corner to that corner. Oh, that's why. You do want to have your UCS aligned. Why am I? Oh, it's not really there. It's a figment of my imagination. Okay, so for example, you might take your UCS, and if I didn't start this drawing from scratch, I would have already had it in there, but I'm going to go ahead and align it right here and pull that this direction, something like that. Okay, so you get the idea. Anyway, you would create your box, and now I might have my UCS a little messed up there. And just keep modeling from there. My lines weren't exactly straight, so my box may not be straight. No, it's not. But anyway, I don't want to go into all the 3D modeling tools, but I really just want to show you, these are the few key tools that I use to create all these different projects. Now I want to take you back, because we're almost out of time, I want to take you back and just show you some of these projects that, again, I turned to the point cloud over and over again, and I had no idea when I started this, when I did those scans, how valuable that would be, how many times I would turn back to it, and how many trips it would save me. So here, This is the final deck, and up here, I mean, we were able to use this design to submit for HOA approval. They were able, because it's got the point cloud, and you can really see, you know, the home there, they could completely visualize what that deck and what the fence is going to look like. So there was no arguing that, right?
Your hot tub actually looked pretty bit smaller than that one.
It does? It's actually, it's a big hot tub. I think I did it to scale.
Oh, it is pretty good size.
It is. Maybe it was the angle. I used the point cloud. This was a really tight, it doesn't look as challenging. This is actually a Murphy bed, and I had a very narrow space to work with it to actually fit a mattress, fit the barn doors, because there's a closet right over here on the side. There's also this wall you can see right here. Those are things, if I would just took measurements of the room, if I went up there one day and measured the room and said, oh yeah, it's 10 feet by 11 feet or whatever, I'd get back home, you know, 2 hours away and start modeling and not realize all these the detailed constraints, even the 3/4 inch trim down here mattered for this design, for me to be able to get something in there where a mattress could fit and have enough room for you to still open the closet door. So the same thing with on the other side of that same room with the window. I wanted something up high where I could look out the window. I couldn't find any furniture that would work, so I custom made that. But again, every detail, it turns out that the side on the right is not quite the same size as the side on the left side. All those details I had there that I may not have thought to measure if I was out there on site doing that. Submitting, I think I mentioned that, submitting the permits. Again, just being able to use the point cloud, model everything from there in AutoCAD to submit the permits. Little things that you may not think about. This was for the hot tub, apparently that huge hot tub. I called an electrician that was, you know, down there close to the site, and asked him, you know, to give me an estimate. But I was 2 hours away. He was in Colorado Springs, so he was like at least half-hour away. And rather than having him drive up there or me go to meet him, I had everything I needed. I had photos. These photos here, actually down here at the bottom, showed him, you know, how he could get his truck up there close to it, how they could deliver the hot tub. The photo up here on the top, he was asking, well, about what's the distance I have to run from the power box to get to the hot tub. I'm like, well, I don't know, but I can find out. So all I had to do is open up that point cloud, and very easily, and I could just draw it on there, do a quick, you know, image for him, and send it off. He gave us a quote, and didn't even come until he was actually ready to do the work. So super easy.
Actually, he could have used the app for that to get that mentioned.
Yeah, he could have, but I figured it was pushing it to ask him to install. I wasn't sure he had AutoCAD or ReCap. A few other just simple things, like this was my daughter's room, and I was trying to pick furniture. I would have had furniture way too big, because the furniture I wanted wasn't going to fit in there. But I didn't know that until I started modeling it and saw that it was... I know, that bear is 8 feet tall. And she was 17 when we got it for her last Christmas, and she loved it. It's a little frightening. The wood shelves and the wood workbench in the garage. And then this is another example. It's kind of hard to see here, but right now the laundry, the washer and dryer is in the kitchen, which I don't like. But trying to convince my partner that it was okay for us to move it upstairs and that it wouldn't be a real problem. And also to work with HVAC and electricians and see, you know, I just wanted them to give me an idea. Is it going to be crazy? Is it going to cost us thousands of dollars? It was so easy for me to confirm and to know myself that the plumbing is in the exact same wall. I just want to move it straight up that same wall into the bathroom, which is larger than it needs to be. So just little things like that. When I first started looking at that, I actually had the tape measure, and I'm out and I'm looking at the beams out the window and thinking, okay, if that beam is here, then I'm like, so I'm trying to figure out where the plumbing was, you know, from running downstairs and upstairs. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? I could just pull up the point cloud, do a slice right through it, and I saw right there that it's the same wall that it's sharing. Okay, so just so many endless possibilities. And hopefully from what Mike has shown you with the Leica instrument, it really is here. Just like 2D scanners of 20 years ago seemed like so far away, now 3D scanning, it really is here. It's easy to use, and it's just becoming more and more affordable. So I definitely encourage you to check it out and see how you can work this into your projects. So any more questions? Got 2 minutes left. Yeah.
You work at all with UAV data or just from photos?
Good question. So, good question. So the question is, have we worked at all with UAV data to use those for scanning? And ReCap supports that as well, so I'll let Mike
Sure,
talk.
yeah, so the ReCap Pro subscription comes with ReCap Photo, which is our solution for mostly aerial-based. You put a camera on a drone and fly around a house or a project site. It goes back to the point we were making about accuracy versus kind of the workflow. But we support putting both types of data together inside of ReCap, so a point cloud from aerial data, from the photos, and a point cloud from a laser scanner. Those can go together in ReCap, and many of the same workflows that Heidi already described can be used inside of AutoCAD with that point cloud. Typically, you're more on the centimeter, maybe like 3 to 4 to 5, 6 inches on the accuracy side when you're using photos. So definitely not as accurate. So it depends, if you're trying to fit a washer dryer in a closet, or if you're like trying to figure out maybe a flower bed or something outside, or something of that scale. So it all depends on the accuracy. But we have workloads for both.
Another question.
Are there any surfacing capabilities to ReCap to create surfaces by they'll take the average of the points to create a surface?
We don't, not inside of ReCap, but a lot of that is handled in like the Revits or the AutoCADs of the world.
Can you export that into Geomagic? Okay.
So we can export surfaces into Geomagic. Yeah. Yeah. But inside of Revit, so some of the same tools we saw AutoCAD today, but you can create solid surfaces while you're referencing the point cloud, or even in AutoCAD like Heidi was showing today. But we don't create them ourselves inside of ReCap. We prep the data, we register it, and then send it off to the AutoCADs and Revits and InfraWorks Civil 3D to do those things.
Yeah, so I didn't show that in AutoCAD, but it can actually detect, very easily detect planes if you've got that tool in AutoCAD turned on. And so what I did for key areas, like when I needed to include the walls for the deck submission, the deck permit, I just modeled those few key walls there, and it was very easy to draw just by detecting that face from the point cloud and drawing my few boxes, basically. So yeah.
Question here? Pardon me? Mac support for ReCap? There is not. No, unfortunately. It's not on the roadmap either. No.
ReCap Photo is entitlement. Just activate for somebody, but how does that get it on the software?
So ReCap Photo is it's an application just like ReCap Pro for the LiDAR side. So you have the ability to view and edit point clouds and meshes with ReCap Photo. And then there's a cloud credit charge per project. So depending on the size of the project, we'll charge a certain number of cloud credits. The photos get uploaded to our service, and the service from A360 returns a mesh, point cloud, and multiple actually mesh formats, RCMs, OBJ, or the RCS, which is the point cloud. Does that answer the question? Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you guys so much for attending. I think we're going to get kicked out, but we can continue answering questions out there. All right, thank you.